But I think it's time to get into the main event of the show, finals match number 3. So, Nick, let's do this.
So I'm going to preface this with I have like 4 pages of notes on this match because a lot happened in finals match 3. So I hope you've all watched it in real time before, because we're certainly not going to watch this one in real time because there's so many places to pause. The setup for this match is crazy. You have Alliance 1 in red bumpers versus Alliance 7 in blue. Alliance 7 at IRI got through to the finals. Both alliances technically went undefeated all the way to the finals. However, the Blue Alliance had to play a replay match due to some bad game data. So they won every match they played, but they had to play an extra match compared to Alliance 1. Some interesting notes about this match. 7 out of 8 teams in the finals at IRI, including the 4th partners, they were district teams. Only one of them still plays in regionals. That's Team 340. Another interesting fact, in Detroit, eliminations was dominated by Michigan teams. There was a lot of them at champs, a lot of them made it through elims and played really well. There's no Michigan teams in finals here at IRI, with a pretty strong contingent of Michigan teams at IRI this year. So, interesting point. You had teams from Indiana, MAR, Ontario, New England, and New York, but none from Michigan making an appearance here in the finals. So this is finals match 3. Each alliance has won a match in this series. The Blue Alliance actually almost won match 1 with Techfire on their back for most of the match. So everybody was not really sure what was going to happen here in this match. We're going to roll this match right just for a few seconds so we can get the plate assignments here, because I want to talk about those at the start of auto. So we can pause here now. We have the plate assignments. So beginning of auto, the field is somewhat here in Blue's favor. Both Techfire and 195 have been put on multi-cube duty so far, and the field is lined up in favor of Techfire's 3-cube auto. 2168, who is in the red bumpers in the bottom right corner of our view here, they too have a multi-cube auto, but they haven't been running it yet in elims. So we're going to roll this up until there's 9 seconds left in auto, and we're going to see how this plays out so far. So we're going to roll up to 9 and pause here. Okay, so we'll see that Techfire's gotten 1 cube, but also both 195 and 2168, the 1 cube is in midair, but red will be a cube ahead here for a moment in auto. We'll roll to 6 seconds left in auto, and we'll see if Techfire can make their 2nd cube, and they can, and 195 is going to go for their 2nd cube themselves here in auto, so we'll see if they make it, which is right there, and they do. And then 195 is going to try here for their 3rd cube, and we'll roll till we have 134 seconds left in teleop to see how this turns out. So we see, unfortunate for 195 there. So we'll pause at 134, and we'll see that both in the background while I was talking about 195, Techfire missed their 3rd cube, and 195 missed their 3rd cube. So the difference here was the Aluminum Falcons cube. So now the Red Alliance is ahead here on the scale, so they own the scale by 1 cube. And each of the 2 switches have 3 cubes on them in favor for each of their alliances. So the switches are tied.
Right here, Nick?
Absolutely.
So I want both yours and Dan's thoughts on both alliances dropping 3 cubes on the switch this early.
I'm a little worried about that. I think it might be excessive, but I think Blue understands that they need to at least definitely have 2. They know that red is going to come after. If red gets ahead, they're definitely going to come after the opponent's switch, particularly the 195 and 2168 are very good at attacking the opponent's switch. So I think good call for Blue, but maybe scary for red because Blue's probably not going to touch the opponent's switch in this match.
Yeah, I would agree with you completely, Nick. I thought the 2168, it seemed like after in every match, they would put themselves in a position to block off the line of cubes along the fence of the opponent's switch. And while doing that, they would usually pick 1 cube up and hold on to it, and at some point they would drop it into that switch. And so I think it was important for Blue to take a little bit of a lead there, but I do think it may have been a little bit aggressive on the Red Alliance's part, and I think, as we're going to see in this match, every freaking cube mattered.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to keep rolling the tape here, and we're actually going to see exactly what Karthik talked about with the difference of strategy here.
I just wanted to point out that as soon as once you get 3 cubes in, I feel like 3 is a good number for it. Makes the other it looks filled up, so that the other alliance is like, well, why do we want to go after it? It's already pretty filled.
Right.
I think any more than that, then you're just wasting cubes. But I think 3 is a pretty. I think 3 you're safe if you go for it. Any more than that, and then you're just.
Also with 3, there's a tipping point when you look at the geometry of the switch, because once you take the lead on the switch, it's actually harder to get that lead back because of how the geometry works. Because if you throw 3 on the other side, if you try and throw your 4th on, and if the switch is still tilted against you, your 4th is most likely going to rest on the fence.
Yep.
And once you have a cube resting on the fence on the switch, you're toast, because every other cube is supported by that weight somehow, and it's really hard to. It's one of the things that totally hurt switch bots this year. And so by getting to that 3 leverage point as opposed to 2 actually does make a huge difference.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll keep rolling here. And we're going to see a pretty big difference in strategy here. So we're going to see that 2168 is now trying to guard those cubes, which means that red has sent 2 robots after the scale while blue is doing the 3 robot rush. Blue knows that they're behind, so they have to get as much firepower they can at the scale, knowing the switches are tied. We'll see that blue succeeded in their first 3 robot rush, but they're still a cube behind because of the speed of 195 and 2056. Both the vaults have remained untouched at this point. So actually, can we pause for a second because we missed something here? If we can go back to 112, actually this spot doesn't even matter now that I think about it. Blue does succeed in the 3 robot rush as I talked about, but we'll see that 2168 is remaining on defense here. So blue is heading up again for another 3 robot rush coming up very soon. And 3 robots against 2 in most cases can definitely outrun. And we'll see that blue has a chance to even out the scale in this cycle. And at 100 seconds, blue is a little bit slower to place, but they're saved by that drop cube right there on the red platform by 2056. So now the scale is even, simply only because of a mistake by 2056. Everybody is doing everything right, but that one little cube there makes a difference because now the scale is in a neutral state. It's not earning points for either alliance.
Hey Nick, can we jump back to 112?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because what is 2168 defending right now?
Currently nothing, in my opinion, because there's all 3 robots are loaded up with cubes, and they're not actively going to the portal yet.
Yeah, this is, and you know, I know Damien from 195 is in chat, so if he has any insight, because I'm curious as to what they were, because normally 2168 was right on the wall of cubes,
right?
And they would focus on those, and those have been cleared out by this point already. And we've seen about 15 seconds they do make a portal run, but this one just seemed a little bit weird to me, especially for a team like 2168 who was so on point on defense. I'm just curious as to what they were trying to do here.
Now, there was a little bit of insight here as well. There was some issues 2168 was having throughout these matches. I did frequently see where they would stop and sit and they would like recycle their joysticks on their driver station or something. I'm not sure if this is related, but some interesting definitely strategy here as we're saying. So we'll keep rolling to about 100 seconds or so. We're gonna roll for a little bit here, and we'll see that once again blue is a little bit slower to place, and we'll see 2056 will come up and they will drop this critical cube here, and the scale will go to a neutral state. And then at 95 seconds, we're going to see that blue will actually take control of the scale here, just for a brief moment to start. And then after this, we're going to see 1024, who is on the bottom left corner. They've already left to go start filling the vault, knowing that they got to start making use of those power cubes here. So we'll keep rolling here, and we'll actually see that 2168 is now beginning to do that attack of the opponent's switch in the top of the field. And we're going to roll up to 84 seconds left until I can talk about the state of the field at this point in the match. So 185 actually just dropped a cube, meaning that they're now, again, a cycle behind. Red is now behind on the scale for the first time in this match, and blue has taken the lead of the match from ownership. The score is still within 5 points, though. It's still fairly close, and a little bit of ownership will change that, or some smart power-ups can easily change this. The blue switch, however, is now within 1 cube. There's 3 cubes on the blue side, and now 2 on the red side of the blue switch. And you see that 2168 is working on that, while the red switch is completely uncontested. Both alliances, as said before, have sent robots to go after the vault. Both 2056 and 1024 are working on trying to make use of their pile of power cubes to make use of some power-ups here, which means that each alliance now only has one robot focused on the scale. 225 is on scale duty for blue, and 195 is on scale duty for red. We'll see that 2590 is also right near 1024, and they see that their switch is about to be taken over by the Aluminum Falcons, so they go to help out to try to make sure their switch continues to earn points for blue. The usage of the power cubes here is interesting, because with the red switch being uncontested, all of those power cubes that are in the pile for red are available to be put in the vault, whereas blue is choosing to use more power cubes to maintain their switch. Now, at this point, if you're red, you have two choices, right? You can flood the opponent's switch, or you can try to take back the scale. What are we going to see red choose? Let's roll the tape.
Just one other thing I want to mention is, like, I love how 2056 is letting 195 solo the scale at points in this match. 195 was just so effective at a high scale, and I thought it was really smart of 2056 to jump off of it and not pull 2168 off their defending role to come hit the exchange, but to let them do it themselves. I just thought that was a unique use of roles.
Yeah, absolutely, and just the faith in 195 and their speed of scoring definitely showing here. At least 2056 has faith in them. So at 80 seconds, we'll see that 195 makes the choice to ignore the scale for a while, and they choose to go out, try to double team the opponent's switch with the Aluminum Falcons. We're going to see that this will succeed for just a moment. We'll see the scale tip over to red for just a moment, but Nemesis is there to maintain that switch. And we'll keep rolling here up to 68 seconds or so. And we'll see that Nemesis places that scale, and the scale now bounces back to blue and begins to earn ownership for blue. And a cube drops off for red there, so they miss a few. And we'll pause at 68 here, and we'll see that red now has played a level 2 force to try to narrow the gap here. We see they're exactly 20 points behind, and they're making use of the power cubes 2056 put in the vault. They're forcing the scale because they don't have it, so they're trying to narrow that gap here. On the left, we'll also see that blue has 3 cubes queued up in boost. They haven't played it yet, or at least they're about to play it. We'll see shortly that power-up will be played thanks to the cubes that 1024 has put in the vault. So we'll go ahead and roll here, and we'll see at 64 seconds or so, 2068 and 195 again keep trying to go after the blue switch.
Can we pause right here for a second?
Absolutely.
This is what I want to talk about with geometry on the switch. We spent so much time talking about packing on the scale, but right now, with the way that 195 has placed that last cube on the blue switch, they're not getting any extra weight out of it because things are starting to rest on the side, and because a lot of that goes back to blue taking a commanding lead on that switch early in the match, and so it's starting to pay off for them right here. You see 195 and 2168 spent a lot of time on this switch for minimal gain, and it ends up being just enough gain, but it's a little bit frustrating to see how they're putting cubes on here but not getting anything out of it. The only other thing I want to mention is that there were 50 points in penalties early in this match on the Red Alliance that the Blue Alliance has already accrued into their score. So just one thing for us, everyone watching at home, to keep in mind.
So we're going to keep rolling up until 40 or so we got a little bit to talk, but we'll see that blue has now played a level 3 boost, meaning that they're boosting both their switch and their scale, and we'll see that 2168 successfully for a moment takes over the Blue Alliance switch, which helps limit the effects of blue's boost here. We're going to roll up to 40 here, and a little bit another state of the field thing here right at about 40. So we'll see that blue actually plays force, knowing that they've lost their switch. They play force, and they kind of double team it with not only playing force, but also Techfire goes and tries to physically take the switch back over, with blue playing that level 1 force there. We'll also see that 195 is now switched off of the opponent's switch and is now going back after the scale. And we'll also see that Nemesis is in the blue platform zone, and 2056 is about to head towards the platform zone because it's time to start thinking about climbing. So state of the field here again, blue has had to use more cubes from their power cube pile than red has because of the switch defense. We'll see that the red switch remained entirely uncontested in this match. So it's definitely possible that blue has no idea how many cubes are behind the red driver wall. I think it's pretty safe to assume that most of the vault pile or the loot pile is back there. They can probably see the pile of 3 cubes sitting there stacked, ready to go, ready to play in Levitate. So if you're looking down the field as a drive coach on blue, you know that your lead here doesn't exist. You're actually still 2 points behind according to real-time scoring, because excuse me, because there's definitely at least those cubes to be played. They basically, blue needs to maintain control of the scale and the switch for the remainder of the match to even have a chance to win this match. So we're going to roll, and we'll see that 195 will tip the scale back to red's favor here, and then we're going to kind of see that the teams are setting up to climb, and then at 27 seconds we'll pause here, and we'll see that red has now just played their levitate, so their score is going to jump here, surging them into the lead by 3 points. Blue is now 3 points behind. And they only have 2 cubes in the vault for levitate. They do not have 3 cubes in the vault, meaning that with those all 3 robots, blue robots climbing there, they have to make sure they go and get this climb, knowing that red is going to probably get 2 climbs here. We're going to see an interesting close call as we roll up to 22 seconds here. Now that we know kind of the state of the climbing here, we're going to watch 195 as these teams set up for their climb. A really, really close call here for 195. Right here, we should pause. 195 almost gives up a cube to the Blue Alliance. They almost give them that extra 5 points with that power cube by just not being able to see it. I mean, the drivers are all the way at the end of the field, and they have to look through 5 other robots, the scale, and a pile of power cubes. They can barely see where that cube is. We'll see the human player. It's probably hard to see it at this resolution, but the human player is like running the rollers as fast as she possibly can, trying to steal that cube out of 195's robot. We'll see that red has also just played a level 1 boost to try to boost their switch a little bit, to try to further the gap a little bit here. Smart play there, effective use of that last little cube they had behind the driver wall. So we're going to roll up to 18 seconds here, and we're going to see that robots are loaded up for the climb. We'll see that 195 now has entered the opponent's, or actually before they had entered the opponent's exchange zone. This was kind of a talk of the tournament right after, and a little bit on the internet, where 195 now is accruing fouls, and there was some question marks about whether or not 195 was ever really 6 feet away and where all the fouls deserved. But the point being here is, if 185 was never in this exchange zone in the first place, this match is over. This match doesn't get close at all without 195 beginning to accrue these fouls for not driving 6 feet away. So I'm going to roll up to 10 seconds or so here left in the match, and we're going to see that 195 will briefly take control with a bounce-off cube here. We'll see those fouls are occurring in the background. So there's about 3 or 4 seconds here where red prevents blue from accruing points in their switch. And knowing that this match was within 3 seconds, or 3 ownership seconds, this one move, even while getting these fouls, actually saves the Red Alliance to win this match, because they stop the bleeding here for just a moment. This right here is what really, with everything stacking up and happening, this move right here is what won red the match. So we're going to go up, we're going to see the match will end in a, we can keep rolling, Tyler, will end in a 3-point differential, and this is another one of those matches here. I did, as we see the count still happening, I did sit and look at the CAD drawings as we pause for the end of the match here. I did look at the CAD drawings. I placed what I thought 195's robot size was on the field, and I drew the 6-foot circles. We were talking about this while we were setting up our notes for the show. And even though it looks like the referee was incorrectly still awarding fouls once 195 was parked closer to the gate, it actually sort of balances out with real actual time. That there was 15 seconds or so total of 195 within the within that 6-foot radius, according to CAD anyway, as an estimate. Absolutely, yes, Tyler, if you could show this, because I'm kind of hand waving. Yeah, so here's the circle, the 6-foot radius, and that's drawn from the top right corner of the exchange zone. And that's the robot with bumpers, assuming a little bit about 195's size here. The entire time that they're both within the exchange zone and also putting that cube on the switch, they're just barely within that true 6-foot 6-foot radius there. Whereas the blue square, which you can see, is where they're, at least where I estimate they are from the camera angle, they're not. The difference, though, is they do actually spend about 15 seconds in that circle, and it's really the balance of that and the slow counting of the ref that seems to balance out that this actually was the correct number of penalties, just not called at the correct time.
Yeah. In terms of the slow counting that Nick mentioned, I had a chance to time it, and so the first penalty took the referee's 5 count took 6 seconds, and the next 2 penalties, the referee's 5 count took 8 seconds. And so, like, first of all, reffing is hard, and this is not a criticism of the ref, because I guarantee you we would see all sorts of variants if we timed everyone's random hand motions.
Sure.
These are arms, not pendulums, so we'll see that. But actually, I had no idea that a standard sized robot, if we could go back to the CAD file again, I had no idea that a standard sized robot with bumpers would still be within the 6-foot radius when scoring on that side of the switch. No idea this year, but this ref knew. So, like, kudos to that ref for being on the ball. And I mean, first of all, this is a call that was missed like 8 million times this season.
Right.
Because I never saw it. Secondly, it's a weird asymmetry of the field, which also now makes the field more dependent on plate assignments, which is weird in itself. But 195 definitely, once they went to go park at the gate, was out of that zone. But I think it did kind of balance out in the end with 3 penalties. So
right. And with this match, the reason why it was so close was a stack up of all these little tiny decisions, just like any match is. But every little tiny detail in this match is what ended up being that 3-point differential. In reality, if 185 had never driven through the exchange zone, this match wouldn't have been close. It was over at about 27 seconds left to go once the scale had tipped. But with it being, go ahead.
Sorry, if we can just go back to the CAD file, because I want one thought here, and I actually want to report. Is it? Okay. Yeah, so if you look at that circle, when there is a defined zone on the field, which this circle forms, it should be taped out. So I wish that rule wasn't that you had to get 6 feet away from the exchange zone. I wish there was a tape mark out of saying you have to be outside of this. If you enter the exchange zone, then you must get out of this zone within 5 seconds. That way, everyone knows what's going on, and you don't have these weird sort of esoterics. Like, obviously with pinning, you can't have tape outs because that's dependent on a robot. But since this radius was, if you're going to have a radius based off of a fixed item on the field, just tape out the zone for everyone, so it's easier for referees, it's easier for the audience, and we don't have this sort of confusion. I just wanted to, that just hit me right now. I just wanted to get that out.
Yeah. So I mean, this whole match as being a stack up of very quick second decisions. I mean, if Blue had decided to abandon the climb and go do a full field portal run to get those extra few points and only climb with 1 robot on 2590, which that robot was certainly capable of lifting 1 robot, or if 195, dumps that cube into the exchange zone when they shouldn't have, or ownership changes a little bit, that this match, as you said, flips on its head. But point is, this match was awesome, super close to watch in person, and definitely looked really good on a live stream as well. Probably going to be one of the matches people talk about for a long time at IRI.
We got a couple questions here that we'll just go over. The first person, Kalb, maybe?
Bailey Kalb.
Bailey. Kalb.
It says that you should be getting penalties for getting a cube from the human player station from the CAD file. So if we just go back to the CAD file. So yeah, exactly. You have to be in the exchange first.
Correct. If you pass through the exchange zone on your way, yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
But if you just drive up, no.
I did see that one called this year, and that's when I learned about this. I wasn't, I hadn't thought about it, the asymmetry of the field causing this problem. But yeah, it was a little bit weird, to say the least, and it's not necessarily a rule that I love in hindsight, but I guess it didn't really make that big of a difference. They
started to call it a little more aggressively at both championship events this year. Is when I started to see it called more, just like the leaving the platform zone while hooked on the bar. Both those 2 rules were definitely enforced a lot more aggressively at the championship this year once they were clarified to all the referees.
Yeah, I know that the leaving the platform zone one was enforced very strictly at Ontario Provincial Championship.
Okay.
But the the zones one definitely was not. So that's, I mean, today we learned.
Whether you are watching live or archived, we need your help to keep fun going. You can subscribe to First Updates now on Twitch, give bits, or make a donation. If you're watching on YouTube, there's a link in the description on how you can help fun.